Minister, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be with you.
Just half of those who applied for this payment during the trial were able to get it. Is the government considering expanding eligibility?
Well, look, the Leaving Violence program is a really important program that does support people at the time of leaving a violent relationship. It's not the only payment that's available. It is designed for that time when someone's leaving. We are combining the program with some other programs as well. We've got the program that was for temporary visa holders as well. This will become one permanent program, and that's very important. But the eligibility is deliberately focused on people when they are leaving a violent circumstance.
Does it concern you, though, that 50% of people, and there's many, many tens of thousands of people who've been applying to this payment, 50% of people are still getting knocked back?
Well, firstly, I would say that the program will assess eligibility. If someone is not eligible for the program, they will be diverted to other services and support. I would say there are many reasons why people don't necessarily are eligible for the program. Some of those reasons are people withdraw their application, they no longer need the financial support. So there is a lot of reasons why people may not progress, but this is an important part of the system, but not the only part of support in the system.
You mentioned the eligibility before. This payment is, of course, only for those escaping a violent partner. Will it be extended to those trying to flee family members or carers, for instance, because women with disability face particular risk in this area?
Well, this payment is specifically for leaving a intimate partner relationship. That is not currently looked at it being expanded. But as I said, there is a number of other avenues, and that's the importance about the work that is being done by the current provider, Uniting Communities, is that this is not just a payment. There is, of course, important referral, risk assessment and safety planning, particularly for those people that have no connection with any other services. What we know is about 80% of people applying for this payment actually have not necessarily come in with other services. They're self-referrals. And so this is a really important part of the system, but not the only part of the system.
So, for instance, if just say there's a woman with a disability who might be being abused by her carer, what do you recommend they do?
Well, look, there's a number of avenues for someone with a disability being abused. There is obviously the complaints. If this is a carer registered with the NDIS, there's quality and safeguards avenues there for someone with a disability. Obviously, there are other avenues through Centrelink for crisis payments. So there's a range of different pathways for people. But in a case where someone with a disability was being abused by a paid carer, for example, then they should get in touch with the NDIS Safeguards Commission.
And advocates are calling for this payment to be made entirely cash, saying that the application process and the controlled spending is obviously very onerous for people who are in a crisis situation. It could make things harder for them to escape violence, given its prescriptiveness. Will the government be looking at making this an entirely cash payment?
Well, what we did when we designed this payment is once again look at the financial support that people need when they're leaving, at the point they're leaving, and potentially finding another place to live. And so we've had to consider the risk around that, both the risk to the individual and obviously ensuring that that the payment does go to what it is needed for, but importantly, the safety around the individual themselves as well. So this is all an important part of the design, but not the only part of the program. As I said, there are other payments available through Services Australia, such as crisis payment, also designed for people leaving family domestic violence. But this is a very important part that provides, as I said, the financial support, but also for those that may require it, some risk assessment, some basic safety planning and referral to other services.
Minister, we've been hearing from survivors of family violence that they're frustrated about the way that this payment is balanced between cashless and cash. Can you use the cashless card at any retailer, or is it only a set list?
Oh, this is not a cashless card. What the organisation, the caseworker would do with the individual is work with that individual to make payments for certain goods, services. For example, if someone was requiring bond for their house, then what this would do is support that individual to pay their bond directly so that they could secure that house. That minimises the risk of financial abuse. Often it's a very dangerous and risky time when someone is leaving a violent, intimate partner relationship. So it's not a cashless card. The caseworker works with the individual to ensure that the aspects, the goods and services they need are paid for and in place for them when they're leaving that intimate partner relationship. And it is focused very much around on the safety of that individual, particularly at the time they're leaving that violent relationship.
Just under the evaluation of this payment, the evaluation that was done by the government suggested that it may not be sufficient to meet people's needs. Now, obviously, as you know, it's going to be indexed with inflation, but this payment is still set at the same level that it was in 2021. In today's money, it's around $740 less generous than the initially trialled amount. How open are you to increasing that?
Well, firstly, I would say that the previous program was not permanent. It was not. The previous program was a trial and it needed to be redesigned to ensure people got the right support. In a number of budgets, we had to increase the funding to support the wraparound help that was needed for people, and so we've done that. But in addition, we have, as we've made this a permanent program, have committed to indexing it as well. And that is important to ensure that over time.
Sorry to interrupt, Minister. I know because we've been discussing the indexation, but just to be clear, is that a no to looking at increasing this payment?
Well, we've made this payment permanent. There was no money in the budget for this payment to continue. It was due to end on the 30th of June because the previous government had made it only temporary. So we've put this set it as a permanent payment that will be indexed over time.
And Minister, just on a related matter, the government's national plan, as you know, aims to end violence within a generation, end violence against women and their children within a generation. What is the specific deadline that's been set for that?
Well, look, we've been really clear that this will need generational change. The first plan is a 10-year plan. It is obviously not the first plan, but this is a 10-year plan that has action items. It will have a number of action plans come under it. But in terms of setting that target, we haven't put a specific date or deadline, but we've set what I think is an ambitious target to end violence against women and children in a generation.
Sorry to interrupt, Minister, but you say ending it within a generation, but what does that actually mean in terms of the actual timeline?
Well, we've been clear that there is a 10-year plan. There will likely need to be another plan come after that 10-year plan. There are shorter action plans in place, and we will continue to evolve and ensure that our response is in increasing our early intervention, our prevention, our response and healing and recovery. That is what we've committed to do. Obviously, we are aiming for a target of ending in a generation. I'm not going to put a specific date on that. It's a complex issue. It's not one that any one government or any institution can actually fix by itself. It requires all of us to work together, governments, businesses, civil society, individuals, all of us working together to end this, that ends this scourge.
And Minister, just on the workforce, because as you know, $169.4 million was committed over 4 years to generate 500 new jobs for community organisations nationally. That's by funding frontline service and community sector workers to really support those who are experiencing this kind of violence. How many workers did the states commit to hiring by June this year, and how many have been hired to date?
Well, firstly, I would say that we have made 2 payments to the states and territories, importantly for getting on community frontline workers to help support the workforce doing this very important and difficult work. Those payments have been made, and it's expected that the states and territories will reach their target of just over 350 workers by June this year. They are currently in different stages. All I understand are going through recruitment processes at the moment, and so new workers are coming on every day, but we will continue to work to that, and I expect states and territories to meet the targets they've committed to.
Premiers have said that there's too many restrictions around this hiring process. They've been pretty critical of it. What do you make of that, and why not leave it to the states to decide what those criteria are?
Well, we've been really clear that we want to work in partnership with states and territories around these frontline workers. We negotiated memorandums of understanding with every state and territory. They signed up to this. We have paid them in 2 payments, and so this is a collaborative relationship. We have funded these workers and look forward to working with the states and territories to get them on board. But they've all agreed, signed up and committed to putting these workers in place, and I have had a good working relationship with my counterparts, and you look forward to that continuing.
Minister, thank you very much for making the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.